everyone, welcome to Knowledge Graph. My name is Nitu Chowrasia, and today we are learning about root words, prefixes and suffixes and how is it related to vocabulary. Okay, so you guys might be wondering that why have I drawn a tree over here with its roots. What I feel is this is very similar to the root words and vocabulary. For example, roots are the building blocks to vocabulary. Okay, roots are very important if we need to learn about vocabulary, prefixes, knowledge of prefixes and suffixes. Just like a tree needs its root, all the nutritions are taken from its roots, and thus a tree builds up. Likewise, even using the root words, the vocabularies are built up. Okay, so first let's understand something about what is a root word is. Okay, root word basically are the base words. Base word meaning root words are the words which cannot be broken further. For example, let's take a word called act. Now you cannot break this word further to form any meaningful word. For example, but if I write acting, I can break this, and this act in itself means to do something or to move. Okay, so this is the word, this root word act in itself means something. For example, if I take another word called crypt, crypt means to hide. Now with this word called crypt, I can form another word called cryptic. Cryptic means something that is mysterious. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is, now root word in itself can mean something, but there are very few root words that in itself means, and it can be used in a sentence like act, crypt. Whereas there are another root words that has a meaning, but it needs some other form like a prefix or a suffix in order to mean something. For example, if I take carn, now the root word carn means flesh, but we do not use carn in a sentence like this. We have to use something as carnivorous. Carnivorous is someone who eats flesh. Okay, so we know this is related to flesh. So the moment we know the word as carn, we know something is related to flesh. So, and if we write the word carnivorous, we know someone who eats flesh is carnivorous. If I take another thing as let's say lum. So this lum means light. Okay, now this is a base word. Lum in itself is a base word, but it does not have, you cannot use this word in a sentence just like this. We can form a word like luminary. I'm sorry, yeah, luminary, like this, something that is related to light, something that is luminous. Okay, so something that has its own light. So that what a root means, if you know. So what is the significance of a root word? Let's understand that. The significance of a root word is that, suppose you come across a word in any comprehension, or if you're reading a book, you're reading a newspaper, you're watching something on the TV, you come across a word whose meaning you don't know, but in that word you have some combinations of letters or word, those are the root words, and you know the meaning of that particular word. So even if you don't know the complete meaning of that word which you're seeing in the book, or in a news channel or whatever, you'll be able to figure out that is related to something. For example, here I said carn. If you have someone who doesn't know the meaning of carnivorous, and if he knows the meaning of carn, that is flesh, he'll know immediately, that will come across your head that okay, something, it is related something, it's related something to the flesh. So that's what it is. We'll learn more about this in the coming slides. Let's talk about prefixes. Okay, what are prefixes? I'll give you an example. If I write a word called fair, okay, so fair, fair in itself is a word. What if I write un in front of this? It becomes a negative form of fair. Fair in itself means something which is fair enough, but if I write un in front of it, it becomes unfair, something that is not fair. So suppose if I write a word called possible. So possible in itself means something, but what if I add I am in front of it? It becomes a negative form of possible, that is impossible. It is not possible to do. So the words like I am, un, if these are called prefixes, the things that are added before a word are called prefixes. Now let's understand what is a suffix. Okay, The words that are added after a particular root word or a particular word is called a suffix. If I take a particular example, let's take an example as for suffixes. Let's write as, if I write a word called friend, okay. Now friend itself is a word, but what if I write ship, ship? This is what is called a suffix. Suffix ship here means status. That means status of, like, friendship, relationship. So it gives you a status. It says you something. So I added this this word after friend. This is called suffixes. Okay, I hope you had a fair idea of what a root word means and what are prefixes and suffixes. Let's look into some of the slides. You will get a clear view of it, what they are. And we really need practices over these root words and prefixes. Make sure you practice it, because yeah, there's a disclaimer, like, not always a word, if you know a root word and if you make a combination of all the root words, you might get the meaning of the word given. But in most of the cases, if you know the root word, it's going to help you with the vocabulary, it's going to help you remember your words, it's going to help you memorize certain vocabulary. Okay, so the first one which we have over here is meter. Please note that I have given the etymology of the root word as well. What do you mean by etymology? Etymology is the study of the origin of the word. Okay, it's like the study of the origin of the word. So for your convenience, and in some exams like IIFT and MBA exams and government exam also, they ask you specifically, like, if they'll give you a root word and they'll ask you like it belongs to which category, whether it's a Greek root word, Latin, Italian, Spanish. So etymology, they'll ask you the etymology, that is the origin of the word. So make sure you know this. Etymology is the study of the origin of the word, where that word is coming from, whether it is coming from Greek, Latin, or like that. So for your convenience, I've given you this as well, that it's etymology as well. Okay, so let's start. The first one is Greek root. The first one is meter. Meter means measure. Now, in example, as we see ammeter. Ammeter is a device used to measure current. In this diagram, you can see this is an ammeter. See, A is written over here. This is an ammeter. So the moment you see meter in a word, you know that it is related. This particular word, which is ammeter, will be related somewhere or the other with measure. So ammeter is a device used to measure current. Likewise, voltmeter is a device used to measure voltage. This is the device used to measure voltage. V is written over here. Altimeter is a device used to measure altitude. Pedometer. Now note one thing. Ped in itself is a root word. Ped means foot and meter means to measure. So from here also you can remember, it's an instrument used to measure distance covered by walking. Like if you are walking certain distance, it will tell you how much of distance you have covered. Coming to the next one, this is also a Greek root. So basically in this slide I have taken 5 Greek root words and 5 Latin words. So astro means star. So if you come across a word which has astro in it, it will relate something to star. For example, astronomy. Astronomy is a study of stars. Astrologer, or the person who practices and studies astrology, are called astrologers. Astronauts are the space travelers, the people who travel to space. This one, he's an astronaut. They travel to space and they give you information about what's happening in the space. Third one we have is chron. Chron means time. So if you come across a word which has chron as a root word in it, you will know it should click in your mind immediately that it has to do something with time. For example, chronology. What is chronology? Chronology is the arrangement of events in order of occurrence, like whatever events have happened, the chronological order we say, right? First we did this, then this, then this. First this project was done, then this project was done. So that's a chronological order. So this is the root word CRON, chron, which basically is related to time. Then you have chronicle. Chron is the root word again. It means historical records, something that has happened in history, whether in a written form. When the records are available in written form, it's called chronicle. Then you have chronograph. So then again you have the root word chron. It has to be related to something with time. So it is basically a stopwatch which gives you time accurately, like how many minutes, hours, seconds, like that. Chronic is lasting a long time. You might have heard people saying as chronic illness. So an illness which is persisting from a long time, is called a chronic illness. Basically, this word is used in medical. Then you have asynchronous. Again, over here you have the root word as chron. Note what this particular letter A in is a negative word. Okay, it's a negative letter. Sorry. Yeah. So whenever you have A in front of a particular word which has its own meaning, like for example, synchronous. If this A was not in this particular word, synchronous, it's a positive word, but the presence of A makes it a negative word. So synchronous means events that occur on the same time. Okay, so asynchronous is a negative word, so it is the occurrence of two or more events at different times. Okay, the fourth one over here we have, it's again a Greek root word, macro, mega. So it basically means large or big. Macro, mega basically means large or big. Macroscopic. So you have the root word macro over here. Macro over here. Scopic, something that is visible to naked eyes. Now, this is macro. You know as microorganism. What are microorganisms? Microorganisms are those organisms which you cannot see through naked eyes. So macroorganisms are things that you see from your visible eyes, like for example a human being, an architecture or building, anything that is visible to naked eyes. Megalith. Note mega over here, this means large or huge. Lith is also a root word which means stone. So huge stone, megalith means huge stone. You see this image over here, this is basically the megalith of the Great Britain. So huge stone, huge architectural historical stone that forms a pattern are called megaliths. Megastar. I hope you remember this guy from Robot. He's the god of cinema, Rajnikant. So megastar is someone who is very great in whatever field he's in. Megaphone. Mega again means something that is large or big. Phone is normal phone. Instrument used to amplify voice. This is the instrument which is called as megaphone. Next one again is a Greek root word, micro. We learned macro. Macro means big. Micro means small. So microbe are like tiny organism. Like I told you, microorganism. These are the tiny organisms which you cannot see with the naked eyes. Then you have macrocosm, miniature representation of something. So microcosm, for example, if I tell you my city has a microcosm of Taj Mahal, so that basically means that in my city there is a place where there is a miniature representation of Taj Mahal. Now what is micro? Micro again means small, and film is film, so that's a short film. This is how you learn words. Okay, next you have, now from here we are starting with Latin roots. So the 5 we had Greek roots, the next 5 will have Latin roots. So this is scribe. Scribe means to write. Prescribe, order the use of. For example, when you go to a doctor, he prescribes you certain medicines. Okay, so he gives you like you need to use this medicine, particular medicine at this particular time. So that's prescribe. He gives you in a written form. Inscribe. Scribe means to write. In means on something. For example, this is inscribed. When we have known like particular monuments, famous monuments, people go and write their name, which is not good. So what they do, they are inscribing their name or whatever picture they are inscribing on that particular moment. So that's inscribe, to write or engrave words on a surface. Next one is scribble. This is what you call a scribble. I used to do when I don't understand something. I'll suppose if I'm solving a maths problem or you are solving a maths problem and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm not able to find this. I don't know why I'm not able to solve this. So this is what is called as scribble. Describe. Describe is write in detail. In your school time or even now, people tell you describe certain words or describe certain context, certain text or something. So you have to write it in details. Describe about population, pollution, what's happening in the universe. So you have to write in details. That's describe. Next one you have is brief. This is also a Latin root, originated from Latin, which means short. Abbreviation is a short form. The short form, for example, for Mr. we write M like this. So that's an abbreviation of Mr. short form of something. So brave, you got this root word as brev, brave. It means short. Mr., then you have a doctor, doctor, you write it as dr, doctor, and etc, etc. Now you have, then you have brevity. Brevity means briefness, something like in an examination you used to get right and brief. Then again you have breviary, which means summary of something. That is also a kind of briefness only. Coming to next, this is also a Latin root word which means center, center. This is very easy to remember, center. So you have center, you come across a word called center. It means something that is related to center. Centrifugal is something which is away from the center. Centripetal, centripetal means towards the center. You have learned in physics centrifugal force, centripetal force. Egocentric, now the word ego means I, and centric means center. So I center, someone who is I center is a selfish, egocentric. So this word called selfish, someone who's always talking about himself is always be a selfish. Heliocentric, with the sun at the center. This image over here is heliocentric. Okay, when this, like the solar system, when the sun is in the middle and you have all the other planets revolving around it. Next one over here is again a Latin root word, later, which means side. So you come bilateral. Bi means two, later means side, so two-sided. Uni means one, and then you have later, so side, so one-sided. Multi means many, and then you have later means many-sided. Lateral means at the side. Next you have magni. Magni means large. So magnify means make larger something. This lady over here, she's holding a magnifying glass. So if you see something through a magnifying glass, they'll appear to be larger. So what it does, it magnifies the object. Again you have magnitude. Magnitude is greatness of size, like you say magnitude of current, magnitude of voltage. So it describes the greatness of it, or the magnitude of it. Magnificent, impressive and splendid. You see this house of yours looks so splendid, so you can say I went to my friend's house and he had this magnificent interior, like that. So it basically means splendid and impressive. Magnanimous means very generous, large-hearted. A person who is large-hearted, magnanimous. A person who is very large-hearted is known as magnanimous. So guys, that's it for this video. This was part 1, an introduction to roots and prefixes and other stuff. There'll be another slides coming up with more root words for you to learn, and there also I will mention whether it's a Greek root word or a Latin root word. Hope you enjoyed this session. So stay connected, stay in touch for the next videos to come up. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you. Bye bye.